Hey hackers, welcome back to 0x Hack. With me is Daniel Yanev. He's one of the co-founders of DeversiFi, looking after the product. And today he's gonna tell us more about challenges in layer 2 UX. Welcome Daniel. The stage is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Antek, for the introduction. Yeah, so as you mentioned, my name is Dan. I'm one of the co-founders of DeversiFi, and kind of one of the few things I do is look after our product development. DeversiFi is actually one of the first exchanges to launch on layer 2. We made that leap almost a year ago now, in June of 2020. So we've had a lot of time to learn a lot about kind of how users interact with layer 2 and what of the pain points are there, and of course what the benefits are. But also we were, as being some of the earliest in the space, we also experienced a lot of the, improvements and I guess kind of the quirks of the very early days. So I'm here to talk to you about kind of some of the latest challenges around layer 2, and most importantly, what we can do as a community to help improve those and bring more people into our ecosystem. So starting off with the promise of Ethereum. So I guess the whole point behind layer 2 is scaling Ethereum. So let's start talking about that. Generally, the whole idea behind it and what gets a lot of people excited is this concept that we can have this financial system that's global, that's distributed, that's permissionless. Everyone around the world can use it without intermediaries, and that sounds amazing. And in kind of the middle of last year, with the proliferation of DeFi, we had a kind of glimpse of that. We were all swapping tokens, sending tokens, getting great yields. Taking those funds out and putting them into other extravagant products. Taking out flash loans and doing all that exciting stuff. So we kind of saw the glimpse of that financial freedom and all those things we can do. But now, that has kind of changed a bit since then. And also, I guess a lot of the people that maybe are here, and a lot of the people that participate in the so-called DeFi summer are very much like hardcore Ethereum fans and hardcore crypto fans. So if we're going to be talking about the kind of mass adoption, or even getting to kind of the early adoption of crypto, we need to think about the user as, someone who is not full-time into crypto, someone who, doesn't necessarily have the kind of patience and, this and adventureness that we do. So think about, maybe some of your friends that kind of use apps like eToro and Revolut, or your parents or whoever. So kind of how do we make Ethereum accessible to those people? So last year Ethereum was great, and our user is happy. However, let's think about what now actually the user experience on Ethereum looks like for that user. So first off, if you try and use DeFi, actually a lot of the time what you're trying to do doesn't happen. So about one out of 5 times, if you're trying to make a swap on Uniswap or other products, I'm not singling them out, it's kind of the same across the board, that will fail. So you pay a bit of money in gas, your transaction will fail, the market would have moved, and you're out. So for kind of people coming from using traditional products, that's kind of very strange and not a great user experience. Then with the price of Ethereum raising and more people using the network, which is kind of a sign of success, it also has the drawback that increases congestion and increases the price to use the network. So in May this month, the average cost to make a trade on kind of any of the DeFi swap platforms is about $80, which really prices out a lot of possible trades from the market. And if the market is volatile and you have a lot of money to move around, it's feasible. But again, thinking about our mass user adopting this, not really the case, and that's not really something that they can sustain. And we do have some kind of great lending and borrowing rates, but if you were to open a $5,000 deposit on Compound now, you'd have to wait for 2 months to gather interest and rewards just to pay back the gas you paid to open it. And of course, 2 more months if you want to actually unwind that position. And on top of that, there's generally the quirks of the blockchain. If you send your funds straight to the smart contract instead of via the deposit function, all your money is lost forever. You could be in a product that gets rug pulled, and again, you lose all your money and so on. So for our kind of normal person user, that doesn't really combine to a user experience that people would want to use and is worth using compared to what's out there now. But so our user is now kind of unhappy. They're not putting up with this. But over the last year, layer 2 has emerged. So generally, layer 2s are it's a combined term for multiple scaling technologies that allow Ethereum to scale and have a lot of benefits from it. So layer 2s, as I mentioned, can be much lower cost or gas free. They can have instant transactions, so none of that kind of waiting around for 2-3 minutes for your transaction to maybe succeed, which again is much closer to what people expect to see. It inherits the security of Ethereum, which is one of the key reasons why we're talking about layer 2s and not just going to a different chain, which is an obvious solution to this problem. But there are multiple reasons why Ethereum is great as a security layer and why a lot of us believe in it, but that's a different topic. And layer 2s can be private, and they also can be EVM compatible. Now, this is kind of a menu of the things that layer 2 can provide. No layer 2, as far as I know, provides you all of these. So we're not quite there yet, but these are kind of like a subset of these things would be included in kind of some of the layer 2s that are live today. So great, our user is happy. All of the problems that we outlined earlier are solved. Unfortunately, it's not the story is not complete. As many of you know, maybe you've tried using some products, and we're not quite there yet. So first off, let's look at why that is. And we said, on layer 2 things are great, but how does one get to the layer 2? So for now, the most common route is you would move your assets from Ethereum onto a layer 2 because most assets are on the main chain. So that presents itself a couple of problems. So moving from Ethereum to the layer 2 and back, there are a couple of gripes that we can talk about today, and are general things that are kind of beyond the scope of one company or one group of people, but more of a kind of community effort to educate and create the tooling and infrastructure. So first off, we start with wallet support. So layer 2s work in different ways, and if we kind of take the general cases of rollups and sidechains, the interactions with the wallets are actually quite different than on layer 1. For example, on rollups and ZK rollups, usually there's a different signing curve than is on the main chain, which means that integrating wallets is slightly more complicated and usually would require work on behalf of the wallet provider. So that means that the choice of wallets that you end up having on a layer 2 product usually is much less. So it's about kind of like 1 to 5 types of wallets are supported on layer 2 products. Some popular ones you want to have just one, just MetaMask. Whereas on a layer 1 product, it's much easier to do that. So if you go to something like 1inch, they support like 13, 14 wallets and so on. So for our user, they come to use one of these products and maybe their favorite wallet isn't supported. So not great for them, which excludes a number of people from the from using that. Then even if wallets are supported, they usually are not able to be supported natively So there's kind of some extra steps for the user to go through. For example, if we look at MetaMask, which is one of the most popular wallets, they don't really support these different signing curves for ZK rollups. So what products end up doing, for example, we do that at DeversiFi, I believe Loopring, ZK Swap, and Stark, and DYDX, which also use Starkware, do similar things where basically a different key is generated for the user that is compatible with the rollup, and then that key is encrypted with their Ethereum wallet. And that basically means that the user would see a message like this when they're first onboarding, that's asking them to complete an action that they don't really know, that they've never seen before, because on layer 2 is kind of a combination between a wallet interaction like you're doing on layer 1, but then operating a normal product like a centralized exchange, and that's kind of like a weird combination of the two that's not very familiar yet. And putting these extra steps to the user which are unknown is scary. So for example, you can see these kind of different types of messages that you would get to kind of perform this process, and that does scare actually a lot of users away. At DeversiFi, we see about a 12% drop-off in the user flow at this stage. And when we ask people why, they basically say, I don't understand what this step is, and it's because it's to do with your wallet and signing things. People are afraid. And in user interviews, people literally told me, I'm scared. I don't know what this is. I don't want to sign it. And there are kind of ways to experiment with this and try and word it in better ways, but still scary. And for the products which are using basically a different chain, like a side chain, Plasma, or another layer 1 that uses the same addresses like BSC, they basically, users will have to change networks. So for example, if you look at what it looks like for Matic, if you want to use Matic, you're basically presented with this scary message from MetaMask that asks you to add a network. There's a lot of stuff that you don't understand, a warning at the bottom with a red exclamation mark, which again, not great for the user. Our kind of general normal person will not want to deal with that. And that's something that, again, this comes down to wallet providers, and it's not like for a single company to solve. So that's something that, for us as a community, we need to push to get to that adoption. Some wallet providers are quite cooperative about this. For example, we've managed to do a direct integration with Ledger. So Ledger supports our ZK rollup natively, and the user experience there is kind of much smoother, and you wouldn't know that it's kind of any different than using a normal dApp. Cool. So the second thing is, now our user is upset again. They're confused. Then the second thing is the onboarding cost. So moving from the main chain to layer 2 actually incurs quite a bit of cost. So this month, on average, we're looking about $50 per token to move to a ZK rollup. I don't know what that is for the Plasma and side chains, but it's generally the cost of a smart contract interaction. So kind of anything you want to do would be around there, unless it's very simple. Now, again, if you're moving loads of funds around, that's fine. But for your kind of general normal user, paying a $50 fee to just move one token around is a bit ridiculous, and it kind of puts us again back into the unable to cater for those wider users. Now, what are the ways of catering for this? Now, this is a pretty tricky challenge to solve, because that is gas. That's the price to operate on the network. And all the benefits of layer 2 is that you no longer need to pay gas, but that only applies once you're on it. So then kind of having to pay to get on it is kind of a not a great start of your experience. And there are ways to make contracts more efficient, and there are ways to reimburse people, but that's not really a long-term solution to this problem. And with Ethereum becoming more successful and more expensive, although not today, that problem is only going to get worse. So the other way to think about it is, okay, instead of just moving from Ethereum to layer 2, we could be moving from one layer 2 to another layer 2, and obviously back and forth between them. So that basically means that once you onboard onto one layer 2, then if it's integrated with a few others and has bridges with a few others, you only kind of experience that pain once, and then you're kind of free to operate in this nicer world. Now, obviously, a lot of funds are not on layer 2 yet, so that kind of is a limited source of onboarding to start with. But most people actually still in crypto keep their funds on a centralized exchange. I know in DeFi, we kind of don't think about that world that much, but actually, most funds are on people keep on a centralized exchange. So that will be another source of onboarding people to layer 2. And of course, in the kind of general wider economy, most people keep their funds in fiat. So as we're welcoming more people into the crypto ecosystem, they will be looking to onboard via fiat. So the idea is that you don't need to onboard from Ethereum. We can be onboarding users from all these different sources. Now, this sounds good in theory. In practice, actually integrating layer 2s with each other and other places is quite tricky. There is still not really an emergent standard of how to do that, and not really many examples of how it's happened. So again, this is something that is something that we should solve as a community in order to basically make sure that we have a viable solution for people to be using Ethereum rather than kind of moving to other chains or compromising on their security or compromising on their centralization. And we here at DeversiFi are working on some of these and kind of doing our part. But when it comes to these bridges and these connections, it really shouldn't be something that one player does or is completely controlled by one party, because that creates centralization and lack of redundancy in the system. So hopefully in the near future, we'll see a lot of bridges with a lot of operators and a lot of different models between these, and a lot more interoperability, so that we can kind of create this system of affordable and usable Ethereum products. As I mentioned, here at DeversiFi, we're working on a couple of these. So stay tuned in the next month for potentially trying some of these out. And that's all I had for you today. Thanks for taking the time to listen. And if you have any questions, I believe there's a chat here and people can raise hands. Please ask if there's anything you're curious about. Okay.
Thanks for sharing your presentation, Daniel. Are there any links that you would like to share, how we can try to find you and reach you?
Yes, sure. So probably the best, we have a question. So the best way to reach us would be in our Discord. I will drop a link to that in a minute when I pull it up, where our team hangs out there. So if you have any questions about how Rollup works, how you could build an MVP of a bridge with us or anything like that, do let us know, and we can help out with that. Other than that, for general news, we're on Twitter. We announced some pretty cool news yesterday.
Yeah, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So we have a question from the audience. I'll let you read it out.
Sure. Okay. So we have a question from the audience, which is, why would someone use various layer 2s? Or do you think that there will be an emerging winner platform? So this is a good question. So basically, why do we think that there'll be bridges between layer 2s instead of there just being one winner? And there's been a lot of speculation about some layer 2s that might win over. And I guess basically the answer to that is that if we go back to kind of the slide that I showed with the different benefits a layer 2 can have, no layer 2 has all of those benefits yet. So there's basically layer 2s which are better for certain things than others. So for example, you could have a layer that's very EVM compatible, and hence you can have kind of composability in interesting products, but that doesn't tend to be as cost effective. So, that would be only kind of, let's say, 10 times cheaper than Ethereum, whereas something more dedicated would be like 100 times cheaper than Ethereum. So if you're not using fancy products, maybe you want to, you don't want to be paying that. Some layer 2s like ours are private, some are not, which have their benefits. So basically, I think the application that you use will work better on some layers than others. So it still makes sense to not have that centralization on one, absolute winner layer yet.
Yeah, thanks for answering the question. I think, do we have any other questions? If so, feel free to share them in the chat. Yeah, next up, we're going to have Justina from Ethworks teach us how to build dApps like a pro using UseDApp. And that's our framework that we enjoy using a lot. Yeah, Daniel, thanks a lot for your time. I appreciate this. And yeah, let's keep in touch on Twitter and Discord.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, thanks for putting the conference together. Looks really good so far.
Thanks, Daniel. See you.
Nice. Bye.